Welcome to the Developing Your Football World podcast. Today's guest is Macauley Musgrave, currently out in Lithuania. Enjoy the show. All right, Macauley, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So where are you right now?
I'm out in Lithuania at the moment, yeah.
And you're currently 2 hours ahead of us in England?
Yeah, 25 past 10 here, so I imagine it's 25 past 8, all right, very early.
Yeah, and you've just taken a role with FK Vålerenga's Plunga, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, and good pronunciation as well.
Like, yeah, a little bit of practice on that, but yeah, like I said earlier, it does sound like a made-up item from Rick and Morty. And so that team's in the second division?
Yeah, the second division Lithuania, the Premier League.
And what are your roles with the club?
I'm the assistant manager and analyst with the first team, and that's combined with an academy role. So working with the U11s here as well.
Excellent. All right, so this is really, really interesting. I think it's the stuff that dreams are made of. And when I listen to podcasts like this, when I used to listen to the one that Matt did, it was to gain insight from people like yourself. You've got an exceptionally interesting role, and how did you get there is really what we want to know. So how did it come about?
The role came about, I'd obviously been coaching for around 4 years in various different roles and at various different clubs in England. I'd always wanted to come abroad, and I think that I came from I'm quite a confident and loud, outgoing person, and I rarely feel out of my comfort zone. And I always thought, since I got the idea that coaching was going to be full-time for me and it was going to be a career for the rest of my life, I wanted to feel out my comfort zone as quickly and as early as possible. And I thought that would come going abroad, different culture, different language. So I've been searching for roles for around 12 months, posting on Twitter, connecting with people, asking if anyone knew of anything. And to be honest, it was very difficult. You know, it's hard to get roles. In particular, I found when you're applying for a role abroad, you find that maybe hundreds of people from the UK are applying for the same role, and it's difficult to do. So I came up with the idea of I was going to leave everything in the UK, book a one-way ticket to Eastern Europe, email clubs over here, and simply go knock on the door of clubs and say, look, I'm here. Is there any opportunities within the club? Around 2 months before I'd done this, I'd met a guy called Anthony McMullen, who was a coach in Latvia, and he told me that there was an opportunity out in Lithuania and to send him a CV over of my experience and stuff. He sent it off to the club, and I basically heard nothing back. So at the time of deciding to move abroad, the day we got there, I was traveling with my partner. We turned away from Estonia because we had to have a pre-job opportunity. So we had to have like a contract offer to get into the country. So we stayed in the hotel at London that night, decided we were going to find a different country but who would accept us, and it ended up being Poland. So we were going to fly to Poznan. And then in mad twist of fate that night when we got to the hotel, I actually checked my emails, and I had an email from the Lithuanian club who I'd applied for 2 months previous, saying that there was a role and they were interested in me coming out here. So I kind of give them a rundown on the situation. I've been planning to go to Estonia to speak to clubs there, but I'd obviously been declined at the airport. So we were now flying to Poland. So kind of from there, told them I was going to spend a week in Poland, and if they were interested, then I'll travel up to Plunga, where the club were based at. So me and my partner travelled to Poznan, spent a week in there, and over the course of the week, the talks with the club intensified, and it kind of looked very likely that there'd be something offered to myself. So I used the week in Poznan, if I'm honest, as a bit of an holiday to relax. And then towards the end of the week, booked a bus journey from Poznan to Plunga, which was a 15-hour journey. It was probably the worst 15 hours of my life. It was horrendous, but with the picture of once I got there and stuff, it'd be worth the while. So got up to Plunga, had a few meetings with the club. You know, they outlined what they were expecting, what they were looking for. They wanted me to come in as assistant manager, analyst, and combine that with an academy role as well. They've recently reformed the academy here, and there's a massive new restructuring. So I was kind of happy to do that. It would feel more time of the day and stuff. The first team here, obviously full time to train every day, but the time on the pitch is about 2 hours. So combine it with the academy role's good. Again, it gives me a bit of a different experience. So yeah, I was happy to take the role. And yeah, that's kind of how it came about. You know, I think I took a chance in terms of I was sick of applying for jobs online and getting no success. So I thought, you know what, I'll book a one-way ticket to Eastern Europe. And if at worst, the picture I made was the very worst that can happen is I can go there for 4 or 5 weeks, find absolutely nothing, and then go home and still had what I had. You know, so I thought, why not take the chance? I might as well take a leap of faith. And like I said, it was a crazy twist of fate. You know, when I got turned away from traveling to Tallinn in Estonia, I was absolutely devastated. I was going back to the hotel thinking, you know, my journey hasn't even started really, and it's been disappointment. And then to check my emails and find that a club who I'd applied for 2 months previous were interested, it was crazy. So yeah, I suppose that's how fate works, and that's how I ended up in Plunga.
There's a lot of different story threads there, and I would like to pull on as many as I can. So firstly, why don't you tell me, what does your typical day or your typical week look like? Because you've got 3 roles, and so what are you doing morning, afternoon, evening, and how does that build into the weekend?
So the club here train every day. Some days twice a day, but at the moment with our fixture scheduling being we're playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday due to cup fixtures and the league season coming to an end. It's quite quiet in terms of a first team perspective. You know, we play Saturday, recovery session Sunday, Monday, then be free for the players. Tuesday is like a pre-game, so match day -1, because then we've got a game on Wednesday. So it's quite quiet, but in terms of what it would look like in a regular working week, so train in the morning with the first team, train early afternoon with the academy lads. In between that and training at night again with the first team, I've got about 5 or 6 hours free, so I'll fit my analysis work in there. Particularly the manager here does the opposition analysis, and I do analysis from our own previous fixtures, so areas we can improve, areas which will look good within the previous fixture. But on top of that, you know, because I've got sometimes 2 or 3 hours spare, I'll also watch opposition games and kind of we put our heads together and you know, a lot of the times we come up with the same thing and the same ideas. So it's kind of 2 heads is better than 1. But in a typical day, it's like I said, train in the morning, train early afternoon, analysis in between that and training again at night time. And then that's it. Eating, sleeping, watching more football outside of that.
You never get too much football, can you? Although maybe
No, never.
sometimes during lockdown, 5, 6 games a day on TV did push it a little bit. By the end of the final games, just weren't making any sense. It was just a blur of colours. So, how's the English over
there? In the cities here, it's all right. Where I'm living at, which is like a town in the middle of nowhere, it's pretty poor, to be fair. Outside of the people who are involved in football, so the technical director here can speak English. Some of the players can speak okay level of English, but you know, only the basics. Hello, how are you? Good, okay. But outside of the football, so you know, in the supermarkets, in shops, you know, there's no English spoken. It's very difficult. The area I'm living is quite cut off from the rest. You know, I almost feel as if Lithuania is 20 years behind the UK as it is. And the town that I'm living in here could be even 30 or 40 years behind. No, I guess the people who've lived here probably lived here and not moved out of this area all their life, and it's been generations of their family growing up here. So it's really old school. But yeah, that's kind of as far as the English goes. In terms of the football club, it's all right. You know, I found that the children who I work with in the academy are probably the best English that I get, because it's a requirement for them to learn it in school now. So kind of the best conversations I have with the children.
You don't have to speak through a translator?
No. Kind of in terms of the sessions and stuff, I am learning Lithuanian as quick as I can, so I can speak some basic Lithuanian sentences now. When what I've done was I got a notebook, got all the in possession phrases, out of possession phrases, transition phrases, For example, switch play, step in, run into space, for example. Got the technical director here and another guy to translate them in Lithuanian for me. And then I basically learned all the buzzwords and keywords. So within sessions, I can say change the tempo, give me a higher tempo, work harder, things like that. I can say all the basics already. But outside of that, when I first came and stuff, I found that the best way to communicate was, use the tactics board, create animated sessions, give demonstrations. What you find is that when you can't speak a language with somebody, you have to find ways to adapt, and there actually is plenty of ways to adapt and get messages across. And if anything, the manager that I'm working with can speak a basic level of English. And in terms of football English, I'll call it. So the players and the manager can speak football English, if that makes sense. So, but outside of that, they couldn't have a conversation. So no, I found it difficult, but exciting, because it's learnt me ways to adapt in terms of getting my messages across.
What are the academy players like compared to back in England?
To be honest, the standard here is not great. And I think the reason for that is, I'm not sure if it's the same in different academies, but like I said, in the village we live, there's only 20,000 people live here. So we've got, in the U11 group I'm working with, I think there's around 15 children. I would hamper a guess at that's all 15 children at that age in this village that play football. So what we've got is the best player in the group will be here, and kind of the worst player in the group will be here, and the difference between the top player and the bottom player is huge. That brings its own challenges within the sessions. Sometimes we find that the top players aren't being challenged enough. Sometimes the bottom players are a bit out of the depth. But again, it's a learning curve. I know in England, in clubs I've worked at, sometimes they've had two teams, the better players in an A team and then, the worse players in a B team, to kind of keep the level similar and challenge players accordingly. But here, we haven't got the luxury of having 30, 40 youth players. We've literally got what we've got, and we've got to work with that. So again, that brings new experiences and having to find new ways to adapt.
So with such a broad range of abilities within a single group, what kind of things do you do to keep them all engaged and keep them all challenged?
There's a lot of individual work here. It's something that I found here is that working individually with the ball and having the ball at the player's feet as much as possible within the session is something that they're massive on in Lithuania. So, for example, I've seen sessions in grassroots football in England where children will stand in lines, children will stand in queues. That's something you don't see anywhere here. From the club's got 10 or 12 coaches here within different age groups. All that I see within sessions is that children have a ball at their feet for as long as possible. So long periods of sessions, a child will have a ball at his feet, learning the basic skills, learning to master the ball. And then if we're working 1v1 or 2v2s, you kind of find that they're matched up accordingly to ability. The two better players will play against the two better players, and so on. So, like I said, it's difficult because you find that I think there's a recognition from the players and from the children that they're always being paired up against the same people or similar groups. And look, it's a weird one because I wouldn't want the children to think that's because their ability is here and another group's ability is here. So it's important to try and keep that in mind. But look, I think the best thing you can do is work with what you've got, and I think it would be a bit crazy to give a player this ability and a player this ability and match them up in a 1v1 because you can see which player would get all the success. So for me, it's about matching them up accordingly, working the way that they want in Lithuania, which is giving them as much ball time at the feet as possible, and kind of learning the basic skills. In England, children grow up on the street with the ball. I think here, especially in this village, it's kind of maybe something that hasn't happened until 5-10 years ago. So there's a lot of basic skills that need to be learned for some of the players. Look, don't get me wrong, some of the players here are fantastic. We've got a child in my group who's probably the best academy player they've got throughout all ages. Technically, he's absolutely phenomenal. And I'll probably go on to play professional football outside of this country. He's that good. It's crazy then to have that, and then on the flip side to have a player who struggles with the basics, if that makes sense.
How have the kids responded to you?
Good, at first I think they found it strange, but now some of them speak English to me at the start of the session, so they'll come over and they'll ask me how I'm doing in English. I try to speak to them in Lithuanian because I think it helps improve my Lithuanian, and I try to have as many conversations as I can, but they love speaking to me in English. It seems like they find that fun, so yeah, good. The first few sessions, like I said, were difficult because they must have found it strange, they'd learned English in school, but they probably never had an English speaker have conversations with them. So at first I got the sense they found it strange, but now, they respond great. It's kind of, I don't find it any different now to what I found it in England and doing sessions with children in England. I approach it the same. I go in there with the same mentality and the same perception that they'll understand what I'm saying. And look, 99 times out of 100 now, they understand what I'm saying and the points I'm trying to get across, be that through speaking to them in English, in Lithuanian, or doing demonstrations or showing on the tactics board. So yeah, they've responded great, to be fair. It would have been very easy for me to come in and the kids have not reacted well and not responded and didn't enjoy the sessions. But the kids here are very grateful as well. I think it's something worth keeping in mind. All they've got to do is play football, and I'm not saying that as if the country's got nothing else. But in England, I found that children are spoiled in England. They've got Xboxes, PlayStations. They can go bowling, laser quest. Football's kind of not a. It is a main thing for some children, but there's so many things to do outside of that. Whereas here, there's kind of only football and finding happiness within themselves. So look, the children here love football, and I'm very grateful for that.
Something I've seen since coming back home is we always look at the past through rose-tinted glasses. And I'm trying to be more objective, but I feel now at 32 that when I was growing up in a group of kids, or predominantly boys, you'd get the one kid who wasn't into football. Whereas now I think it's more like you have a group of kids and you've got the couple that are into football, and others are kind of they have they have an interest,
yeah.
But you rarely see kids who turn up in the full kit with a name on the back who can tell you every game at the weekend.
Yeah.
Which I feel there was a lot more of growing up, and you're right, there's probably a lot more competing for their interests, a lot more competing for screen time, and trying to get eyes on screen. There's a lot more. So without that in Lithuania, do you feel like you're able to get a lot more done with the kids in a shorter amount of time?
Yeah, like going back to the point of saying it feels like it's 20 years ago back here. Coming back to the point of you saying when you were younger, there was a lot of interest. I imagine that maybe was 10, 20 years ago when you were a child, you know what I mean? And it kind of highlights the point of that. Here it feels 20 years ago, and it does feel like that football is the only thing that they've gotten the interest in, you know what I mean? Like every child coming to the point of coming with names on the back. They've all got the club tracksuit here with their own name on the back. I haven't seen a single session where a child came in normal clothes. They come in all the club gear. They come here every single day. The same children are here. The academy kids train here every single day. Outside of that, when I'm training with the first team, we've got like a 4G facility with the stadium or the ground on. Outside of that, in between like sessions of different groups, the children are still here playing. Like there's a child here called Mayu, a really young guy. He trains my session. I'll then come back in. I'll go back out for my session with the first team. He's still there kicking a ball. I'll come in, do analysis work, come back. He's there with his dad, getting his dad to take shots at him. It's absolutely crazy how much football they play out here. It's like, look, maybe they have got other things to do, and maybe they just love football that much. But it comes across to me as if football's all they've got, because the amount of time they spend on the pitch is absolutely incredible. It's all they want to do. They just love football. When the session comes to an end, we train for an hour and a half with the academy kids each day. When the session comes to an end, they want to do a penalty shootout, so we have to do a penalty shootout at the end of every session. Once the penalty shootout's finished, they want to do different games. They're just so mad for football out here.
What do you think creates that desire in them? Because I saw a similar thing in Mexico over a period of a year and a half, working with boys at about 5 and 6. So a couple of them playing for a couple of years already, and a couple of them are completely brand new to it. And over that time, I was able to see which ones improved massively and which ones didn't. And it correlated quite clearly with uh, nothing to do with the 2-3 hours they spent a week with me. It was the ones that who after the session had an older brother or sister who then stayed with their mates. They found an empty bit of space. They found a goal that wasn't being used, and they'd play for 2 or 3 hours. And their session would start about 5 o'clock, and I'd still see their mums and dads sat down having a coffee in the clubhouse about 8 or 9 o'clock because they just couldn't get their boys to leave. And you think, well, they come for an hour of training, but then they've stayed for an extra 1 or 2 hours after that, and they're showing up on nights when it's not their turn to practice, but they're showing up with their brothers and sisters. And you think, well, the 2-3 hours a week they get with me is a very small fraction of the amount of time they're actually playing football. So do you see something similar in Lithuania, and what do you think is causing that?
I think it's the exact same. Like I said, to the point, I come in from my session, go out to my first team session, come back, come and do the analysis, go out, and the same children are there playing with the same ball, the same part of the pitch. You know, I think it comes from. I think in England, like I said, I think we're spoiled. Like there's so many times when I was younger, I was brought up on a council estate. My family didn't have lots of money, and sometimes I think, oh, my friends have got this, my friends have got that. I haven't got much. But you come here and like they are just grateful for that one thing. Like they're grateful to be spending time with the friends, spending time with the ball, having a 20 by 20 yard area on the pitch which they can play in for 3 hours. And like when I was a child, if I'd only had a 20 by 20 yard bit of the pitch and only one ball and a goal where the nets aren't really that good on it, I'd have probably felt a bit of injustice. Like I'd felt a bit hard done by, do you know what I mean? And then you come here and like, they love it. Like it's everything to them. I put a tweet on Twitter last week. Behind the apartment I'm living in, there's like a little bit of grass, and I often see children playing there. And there's like a goal, but with no nets, and they don't have cone. I see them playing a pit like a game, but the pitch there's no cones to mark out, so they don't know the boundaries of the pitch. And like I never see the children complaining. I sometimes watch them. I never see them complaining that somebody's run too far out of the boundary or off the pitch. It's like they're just so grateful for the basics of life, and it's put into perspective for me. You know, I found so much more happiness here watching the children. You know, because they're just so grateful for the basics of life. They're grateful to spend time with the friends. Hours upon hours within a day with the friends. If they've got one football, they're very happy. Like, and it goes to show you that you actually don't need. You know, you don't need all glory and sunshine in life to be happy.
But is it ingrained into the community there? Is it like a community event? Do parents and grandparents come out and get involved? Older brothers and sisters, are they around?
No. So the children, what I found strange was when I first came here, the children, so I work with U11, so they're around 10 years old. They come to the sessions on their own, travel to the sessions on their own. A lot of them have electric scooters here, like electric scooters are massive here. And they turn up, and one of the first things I asked the coach here, the other coach, was how comes they come on their own, you know? And it's like in England to be traveling like 1 kilometre on your own at that age would be, I don't think many parents would allow it. Basically, they say it's such a safe place, and the kids train that much and want to be here that much that kind of the parents just let them get on with it. Look, the parents sometimes, especially if it's very bad weather afterwards, the parents will pick them up from sessions and stuff, but the parents are never involved. You know, I think if I'm honest, it'd be difficult for the parents to be involved for the amount of time that the children spent here. You know, it'd be a full-time job coming here and sitting here if they had to.
Does that make your coaching a bit easier because you haven't got many parents around giving advice, really helpful advice from the sidelines?
Yeah, you get a lot of helpful advice in England, you know, from the sidelines and grassroots. Yeah, I think so. I do like to engage with parents. I think something that's big for myself in terms of coaching, in particular with younger children, it's sometimes important to know about what their home life's like. You know, sometimes children will turn up and be a bit, have a bit of an off day, and you know, they can be a bit difficult to work with, and it'd be very easy to assume that they're just being, you know, badly behaved. But you know, sometimes it's important to know about the home life. Have they had a difficult day? You know, have they had a difficult week? Is something going on in the family? So I kind of miss out on that part now, and it makes it a bit difficult to understand behaviours of children. if that makes sense. So in England, you know, with parents being around a lot, you get a picture very quickly if a child's having a difficult time, or if, you know, if they're struggling in school. Whereas here, outside of their football life, I don't really know a lot. Or the only information I can get is ask them the children. So, have you had a good week at school? You know, how much English have you learned at school? You know, we kind of don't get much interaction from the parents here. So it's kind of, I suppose that's got its pros and cons. The pros are you're not getting sideline advice. The cons are it's difficult to understand, like the background of the children and why they're showing the behaviours that they are.
So let's now talk about the senior team. At the age of 25, I imagine probably about half the team is similar age or even older than you. Is that right?
Yeah, they have. It's quite a young team, if I'm honest, but yeah, these quite a lot around my age, 24, 25, and these a few senior players in the 30s.
Find that a difficult dynamic to navigate?
Nah, do you know, something I get asked a lot, is it difficult being very young and going into a dressing room where there's players who are experienced, played at a good level? Nah, I don't, do you know, I don't feel out of my comfort zone, and that's strange to us. You know, I love working with the academy children. I enjoy working with children, but I knew at a very early stage of my coaching career that working with adults is where that my career would lie. From the basis of that, I worked in non-league at 23 in England, in a dressing room where some players have played in English Football League One and made 100 appearances there, and didn't feel out my depth. You know, didn't feel uncomfortable, and to not feel uncomfortable in that situation, it kind of makes you recognise, look, I'm probably meant to be here. This is how I'm meant to work. So, no, it's not difficult. You know, the only difficulty I found in terms of coming here is that getting the older players on board has been a bit more difficult due to the lack of English that they can speak. So, like I said, the younger people here can speak better English because, you know, it's probably being ingrained in them to learn it from a young age. Whereas one of the senior players here, he was actually the captain of the club. He was 34. The first few sessions, I didn't feel a rub between us, but I knew he found it very strange that there was a young English guy coming in, and he probably thought, you know, I'm the captain of the club, I can't speak English. This guy's 8 years younger than me, and now he's coming in and kind of telling me what to do, if that makes sense. So that was kind of the only difficult part that I've had. And look, the captain he's left now. He was retiring at the end of the season anyway, and he's been offered the job in Norway, so he's went. But towards the end of the time, you know, we got on really well. We spoke briefly in English and stuff. But yeah, in the initial stages, I found was more difficult with the older players in terms of a communication, and translation. But no, after the initial few weeks, you know, it was the same as what it was with the young lads. And I found no difficulty in that.
So in the wider culture of Lithuania, have you experienced any culture shock? I mean, are you able to develop much of a social life?
No, to be honest, to simply put it, no. Outside of football, like I said, not many people can speak English here. It will be difficult for me to go and socialise with people who have no interest in speaking English, or find it really difficult. You know, I think the lads involved in the football only speak English because we've got a lot of foreign players here, so it's kind of the universal language. And look, one thing I don't want to be doing is, and I would not do, is socialise in pubs with, or in, you know, I say pubs, that's a very English thing to say, to socialise outside of football with the players. You know, I don't really want to be seen to be spending time with individual players outside of it. Look, I'm here to be professional and to do my job, and kind of I want to keep the relationship with the players strictly business, so to speak. In football, you've got to make really tough decisions sometimes, and then decisions can become tougher if you make friends with people. So, look, I don't want to say I'm not friends with the lads, but it's a professional basis and only a professional basis. So, outside of that, obviously, I don't know anyone. I can't really speak to anybody. So, the social side of it isn't the social side. I come here to work. Everything that I do is work related, and the social time's spent alone.
Do you find that hard? What do you do to unwind at the end of the day?
As a very social person and someone who's very reliant in England on spending time with my friends and stuff, it is a bit difficult because, and it's one of the downsides to coming abroad, you know, you've got to be prepared that there's probably is going to be a lot of time that you spend on your own. as my friends, I know I enjoyed going for a pint in England. I enjoyed going to the pub and watching a lot of footy with my mates. I'd probably do it every weekend. And coming here, it's been completely different for us. The plus side to that is I've found a lot more time for personal development. You know, I'm spending a lot of time reflecting on my sessions and games, watching podcasts, watching webinars, trying to learn as much as I can about the game. You know, I already spent a lot of time learning about the game, and all my life was based around football, but I'm now finding even more time in the day to do that. And look, it can probably seem a bit overkill, but when you've got nothing else to be doing, you know, I'm thinking I'm in a bit of a luxury position now. I'm getting paid a good salary off a club to be here, and the hours I've got free, I should probably be using for personal development. So unwinding at the end of the day comes in forms of watching webinars, listening to podcasts, speaking to different coaches, and kind of connecting, networking. Again, everything football related. I don't really think I do anything that isn't football related.
So my opinion on that is it's very, very good to do, particularly when you're young, before you get massive responsibilities like kids and mortgages. So that you're building a base of knowledge and expertise, which will set you up for a long career. And you know, coaches were generous because we have to know a bit about everything. You can obviously specialize in sports science or analysis or psychology, but we have to know enough about every area to be able to defer, to delegate, and to be able to relate to what they say. So I used to fantasize about going off somewhere just completely by myself, coaching several hours a day, and then spending the rest of the time in an apartment just watching games and and studying, reading books, doing what you said. And particularly when you're young, you do have the time and energy to do that. So it is brilliant that you're trying to get as much knowledge as you can while you have the opportunity. So how long have you been out there?
Good question. Feels like I've been here for a year already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Can you still hear me all right? Or is that...
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Can you hear a noise outside interfering with us at all?
No.
Okay, because we got, I think, some kind of gardening's going on outside. But as long as you can still hear me all right, then I can continue.
Yeah, I can hear you. I've been here for 7 weeks.
And what do you think you found the most difficult thing about being there?
Probably what we've just spoke about, the alone time. Like I said, I'm someone who's massively reliant on spending time with my friends. So to come and have no social life, to go from a very big and active social life to no social life has been difficult. I've kind of plugged that with personal development and want to learn as much as I can. So, and look, I love football. I watch football 24 hours a day. You know, I can't tell you how much football means to us and how much I love it. So it's kind of, I've plugged that. Probably outside of that, the most difficult part has been not having my partner here. She came here with me originally. She's a therapist. She wanted to find a job here. She applied for, probably in total, outside of therapy and therapy, she applied for probably 40 or 50 jobs, maybe more. And it was just so difficult. Like I said, outside of football, they can't speak English. So it was borderline impossible for her to get anything. So we made the decision that it was best for her to go back home and work back home. So she's been home now for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll be spending between now and November away from her. So outside of the social, I think that's definitely been the most difficult and impactful. I've been with my partner for 3.5 years now, and I think the longest time we'd spent away from each other was probably 3 or 4 days. So to go from that to spending almost 3 months away is very difficult. But look, there's no shame in saying that either, that it's difficult. Even just having someone to have a conversation with at night and talk about something different to football, it's strange. And I think without knowing it, unknowingly, and this will be the same for a lot of people, you become very reliant on having that person around, and then to not have that person, it's difficult. But look, for me, and it's something I spoke about with her, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, and I have ambitions at working at the top level of the game. but I'm 25 now. Before I'm 35, I'd like to work in the English Football League as a manager. I want to coach in one of Europe's top 5 leagues as a manager, and I've got ambitions to do that. So, like we spoke about, the small sacrifice now, we've not seen it for 3 or 4 months. Will hopefully be worth it in the end when I work that hard and be that successful that she doesn't have to work another day in her life. So, look, even though I'm doing this for me and because it's my passion, I want to give her the best life that she can have, because she absolutely deserves it. So, yeah, it's a small sacrifice for the bigger picture, I think.
You get one shot in life and you've got to weigh up the pros and cons of everything, and that's not an easy decision to make. My personal record is 6 months away from my wife during the time that we've actually been married. It is hard, and it is a reality of going abroad and taking these jobs, and it looks great. You get fantastic experiences, and a lot of people are jealous because you get to go around the world working in football, but it does come at a cost. Whether that's your friends and family back home, you miss weddings, you miss funerals, you miss important dates, and you're not there to help people when they need, and you end up people, get together, they share jokes and stories, and you weren't there, you weren't part of that. You don't know what they're talking about, and you slowly but surely you feel left out. But then you have to think, is what I'm doing worth it? Is this going to pay off? Is this what I truly want to do? And again, particularly while you're young, these are decisions that you can make, that you can put yourself first. And you absolutely should be selfish and think, I've got to do this for me, and see where it can go, see what it can work towards. But I mean, how long do you plan on staying in Lithuania? Could you see yourself out there for a few years?
Yeah, definitely. I'm doing my B license out here, my UFB, so that kind of involves in my plans of staying here. Look, the club that I'm at the minute, Bad Runga, this is their first season in the 2nd division. We're currently in a very, very good position in the league. We've just reached the LFF Cup semi-final, which is like the equivalent to the English FA Cup, and it's the first time since the 70s the club have done that. So it's a phenomenal achievement for the club and everyone involved at the club, and the club are growing. And for me, as a 25-year-old coach, I'm not scared to sit here and say that I've got so much learning to do, and every day I learn something new. And I'm developing constantly, and come to a club who are also developing. I think it's a right match for me at the moment. So in no way do I see myself moving away from here anytime in the near future. I'm happy at the club. I like where the club's going. I like the plans of the club, and I think it's important for me to stay at the right club. In football, a lot of it can be revolve around money and decisions around money. For me now, if a club came in and offered me double the salary, but they had no intentions of progressing through the leagues, they had no intentions of getting the recruitment right, they had no intentions of the academy structure being right, I would stay here. Because ultimately in football, I think one day you'll get to the point where you make that much money that the money doesn't matter anymore anyway. So why not just do the best for yourself and the personal development? Short-term financial gains, for me, it'll be detrimental to you in the long term. So I'm happy here. I look forward to staying here, and hopefully we don't get a bad run of results where the club end up saying, on your bike, off you go.
The reality of coaching abroad is that whenever I would come home and meet up with friends or see people from school, I'd typically be the most skint one there, but I'd also be the most interesting. Yeah. I've been the most interesting places and seen and done the most interesting things, and that is the cost that you have to weigh up. It's a very, very hard lifestyle to get much in the way of savings, and I'm sure you're doing similar stuff where pretty much any bit of time or money you're reinvesting back in yourself, because you are the product. You are what you're selling yourself to clubs, to teams, to players. This is me. Here's what I can do. Here's why you should hire me. And so any spare moment you get, you're having to improve who you are, what you can do, and to learn. And That's why for years, pretty much any bit of money I got would just go into, it would go into a course or a book or some kind of online platform where I could learn things. And yeah, so it's to set you up. So let me ask you this then: if uh, if I was to come out there and work with you, let's say I start a job with you next week, what are you telling me to do the next few days to prepare myself for Lithuania?
Good question. That is a very good question. Bring some nice food with you and bring some Yorkshire tea bags with you. That's the main bit of prep. To be honest, I think learning the buzzwords has been the biggest one for me. I could see there was a massive appreciation within not just the players but the club as a whole when I turned up to a session and I'm speaking Lithuanian and I'm giving advice and information in Lithuanian. You know, there was a massive response from the players in terms of, look, this guy's serious. He's maybe young. You know, he's young. He's came here from Britain, but he's turned up. He's with the right attitude. You know, he's willing to learn. He looks like he wants to learn, and you get integrated in the club much quicker. So for me, it would be learn bits of the language very quickly. You know, the basics. Hello, how are you? Prepare yourself probably to be spending a lot of time on your own. And I know you can't really prepare for that, but what I say for that is don't come here and let it be a shock to you that the time that you've got outside of football will probably be spent either doing personal development or, you know, watching Netflix, whatever you like doing in your free time. But yeah, the two biggest things would be learn basics of the language as quick as you can, because you feel a really integration from the squad and the lads when you start doing that and you start speaking in their language. You know, there's a massive appreciation from them. And secondly would be prepare ways of spending time alone. So, you know, find as many webinars and as podcasts and things that you want to do in free time as you possibly can, because you will have a lot of free time.
Let's talk a little bit about Twitter. So you run an account called Coach's Plan. What's that all about?
It's a page where I share session plans that I've seen from professional clubs, session plans I've designed myself, session plans that I've seen other coaches do. I kind of put them together in an animated way and share them for free on Twitter. And yeah, you know, it's kind of gone well. I've run the page for around 2 years now. I think July, August, yeah, around 2 years. And I think we're up to about 32,000 followers on there. So
are you the only contributor on there, or is there other people involved?
No, it's just myself. I'm the only contributor to the page. I design all the sessions. I'll share them all. I do all the interactions, respond to the emails, the direct messages. So it's all run by myself. There's only me involved.
That's incredibly impressive, and also a way to showcase who you are and what you can do. I think that I bang this drum a lot, but in this day and age, I think the interview and CV process is archaic, particularly because football is a job about people. So you got two coaches that have the same license, but one could be far better than the other. One could be a much better fit for that environment. And we all say the same generic stuff in interviews. You say things like, yeah. I'm a player-led coach, possession-based football. Well, are you? Or, yeah, here's a video of me doing it. We've got YouTube, we've got LinkedIn, we've got Twitter. So I advocate strongly for people to put out their content, show what they can do, to back up their ideas and prove it, because it's some people interview far better than others because some people are naturally just a bit more talkative and outgoing. Some people are reserved and quiet, but they might be the better coach underneath. And some people just struggle sitting there in a shirt and tie. I mean, we live in shorts, right? I had to put on jeans last week to go out. Oh, struggled with that big time. But on the field, completely different story. So what inspired you to start Coach's Plan?
Bit of a sad story after speaking about, you know, all the goods of coming here. I'd been struggling mentally around 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. I obviously it was depression at the time. I didn't know it was depression, and I got to the point where I wanted it all to end. Spent spent a day in hospital after obviously it had happened. Thankful to my girlfriend who saved my life. And when I came out of hospital, I knew that I needed something to wake up every day and focus on, you know, because in the days leading up to try and end it all, it had been, I'd wake up every day and I had nothing else on my mind. And I wanted to wake up every day and have something to focus on and work towards. So I set up a page on Twitter, started doing something I was passionate about, which was coaching. Started sharing session plans and networking with people, and it took off very quickly. I think the idea behind it wasn't, I told myself, if anything comes from it in a year's time, I'll have basically a portfolio of my work. You know, if I've got 5 followers on there, I'll have a record of all the work. But it took off. I think within the first 2 weeks, I had 1,000 followers, and I had a lot of people messaging, interacting with us, saying, "Oh, look, thanks for sharing this, and it's great. Thanks for sharing that. Have you got any other ideas?" And you know, it made me feel good for people to be appreciating what I was doing. You know, I went from feeling down here till I could feel myself slowly rising. So every day I woke up with a focus. You know, every day I knew I had to wake up and design a session, share that session, and then speak with people and connect with people about that session. So yeah, from there it took off. Ended up getting quite a lot of good followers on there who I spoke with and networking with people. You know, I've got Javier Mascherano, played at Liverpool and Barcelona. He's a follower of the page. Ben Osborne, who's at Sheffield United, who I got onto a podcast with. Ian Hume, who was at Leicester City, who I speak to regularly. So I've kind of made, if anything's come out of it, as well as sharing a lot of content on there and enjoying sharing the content, I've made a lot of connections in football, and that's been the biggest thing for me. You know, the more people you know in football, the more you put yourself out there and the more you speak to people, the more doors that'll open for you. So yeah, it was in hindsight, and I look back on that, and I don't mean to say this and say that I'm happy at how I felt and happy that I felt like I wanted to end, but if it hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't have pushed myself as much to follow my passion in coaching. I was doing an electrical apprenticeship in electrical distribution and power engineering. It was, so I was an electrical fitter at the time, and I hated the job. I done the job. I took the apprenticeship because my mum made me do it. Like, she said, "Look, you've got to get an apprenticeship behind you." I'd done it. I absolutely hated it, and I didn't really follow what I loved in life. You know, I was doing coaching, but I was coaching at grassroots. And like I said, football's been my full life. I love football. It's all I ever wanted to do. And after it had happened, I told myself, I said, I'm never ever gonna do another job or do something in life that I'm not happy doing. Like, there's been times over the last 3 years, by the way, like working in football, where I've had no money, and I'm not ashamed to say that. There's been times where I've had no money. Like you said, a lot of the times you can find yourself skinned, so to say. But I found more happiness in having no money but doing something and waking up every day doing something I love than having a very good salary off an electrical apprenticeship, but absolutely hating it and waking up every day and, you know, doing stuff that I didn't like. Look, the electrical apprenticeship wasn't a defining factor of me feeling down and low, but it's an example of I was doing something in my life that I didn't enjoy.
You found purpose through football.
Yeah, I had no purpose. I was waking up every day going to this 9-to-5 job that I absolutely hated. And there was zero purpose to my life. And for somebody like me, who's everybody who knows us will say is very loud, outgoing, to then have felt like that, to get to the point where I feel like I didn't want to be here, it was a crazy thing. Because prior to that, in the years prior to that, if you'd have told me this person tried to commit suicide, I would have sat there and openly said, yeah, it's attention seeking, they're looking for attention. And you know, actually, when you flip it round, I probably was looking for attention, because I found it that difficult to speak to anyone because of my personality. Because of, look, I'm always the loudest in the group, and I'm always the one who's laughing and making jokes. And then to feel like that, it was like, whoa, you know, this is strange. This is a mad feeling.
Did you feel like you couldn't talk about it because in your social group you almost have a role to play as being the loud, outgoing one, and it would compromise that role in front of people?
Oh, 100%. And it was the same with my partner. You know, my partner will probably tell you that I sometimes do already, because I never stop speaking and I'm always going on, whether it be about football or something else. I never shut up. And My parents used to say to me, "You can never sit still," because I'm always, I'm always looking to be doing something. So to be then put in a situation where you've got to tell somebody, all I want to do is sleep, all I want to do is sit on my bed and do nothing, and I've got no interest in anything in life anymore. It was impossible. It was absolutely impossible. And I understand that. Look, the message I would say to anyone is, if you ever feel like that, don't be scared to speak. And that is so cliche to say, but if I can eventually buck up the courage to open up, and then I think a lot of people who are similar to me and similar personalities, it's just taking that first step. Say I'm not feeling very good. Say that I maybe need just a chat, a conversation. Do you want to go to the pub? Do you want to go for the coffee? Make that first initial step, and you'll find it easy. But
it's an important message, isn't it?
Yeah. Honestly, it's a massively important message, and it's something I'm a massive advocate for now in terms of speaking to people. One thing I do regularly now is within my old friends group, I speak to my friends and I say, look, if anyone's ever feeling down, having a down day, give me a ring. It's something I make a massive emphasis on saying to my friends and family now. If you're feeling down, give us a ring. If you ever want to speak, come for a coffee, because I know how easy it is to feel down and not speak. And look, like I said, I'm not happy that I felt in that situation, because it's an awful thing and I wouldn't wish it on anyone else. But it has been a bit of the making of us. I've found now, look, you can be as macho and you can be as loud and thing as you want, but ultimately, everyone feels the same deep down. You've got feelings, and then feelings can be hurt, and then feelings can be twisted. So, yeah. And this is the same for anyone who's listening to this. On Twitter, my DMs are open, and look, I'll probably bore you then speaking about football. But if anyone ever wanted to chat, jump in there and I'll have a crack with you about football. And there's a lot of ways you can go to make yourself feeling better, but that's got to start with you. By the way, that's got to start with you making that first initial step.
Also, by talking about it, it starts to chip away at the stigma, and I think we can do a lot of things better in how we support mental health issues. But one of the things we're starting to do right is talk about it more openly, and to have it out there, and as we said before, we were talking, that it's hard to recognize when someone is struggling upstairs. It's hard to recognize because on the outside it look fine. A twisted ankle, you can see there's a limp, you can see swelling, you can see the soreness when you touch it. But when something's not quite right mentally, you do question yourself and think, well, is this real? Is it just me? Do I, and particularly I think this is an English thing, do I want to burden other people with my problems?
Yeah,
that's a hard one, isn't it? Well, maybe I'm just actually just a bit sad, and there's nothing really wrong, and maybe I don't need to talk to anybody. Then it gets worse. It snowballs from there.
Yeah, like you say, it is about taking that first initial step. Because looking back, I wish I'd have just said to me missus at the time, I wish I'd just said, look, I'm not feeling very good. Is there anything we can do? But instead of being that, big happy macho guy, like, look, I'm always happy, false perception of what I'm really feeling, just snowballed. And look, I ended up getting at the point where I would rather not be here than be here. And look, you never ever want to feel like that, because, there's so much great and happiness in life. I'm now in a position where I've never felt happier. I'm working as hard as I can every day to be the best that I possibly can be for myself and for my partner. Like I said, I want to give her the best life, and I've got a real purpose in life now. If I can give one final message on that, by the way, and people will say it's easier said than done. The one thing I'll say to people is that don't do something in life that you're not happy doing. And that sounds so thing, sometimes you have to go to work and earn money in a job that you don't really want to do. All right, and I understand that. But in every hour you've got in your spare time, work towards building to your passion. Like, spend every hour of your day outside of what you have to do, focusing and working really, really hard on what you want to do. Because then in 6 months' time, you can leave that job that you don't like, and you can work as hard as you can. No one's ever happy doing what they don't want to do. You know what I mean? Follow your passion and follow your dreams. Nothing is impossible. If you'd have told me 3 years ago that I'd have been sat as an assistant manager in the second division in Europe, I'd have called you crazy. I'd have called you more crazy than what I felt. But, I'm here now, and it's through a product of my own hard work and believing in myself and having a real passion. to do this. So yeah, if there's anyone out there who isn't enjoying what they're doing but has a real underlying passion and they want to work towards it, stand up and do it. Really push yourself and want to do it.
The hard work and sacrifice will pay off, and even at times it will look for a long, long time like it's not going to.
Yeah, but in the end it does. Be persistent, work every hour of the day you can at the passion, and you'll get there in the end.
Eventually one day it just clicks, and then it's like things before were never like that, and it's always been this way. But it just there's always a tipping point. At some point along the way, you suddenly go from not to then being whatever it is that you're trying to become. And one of the great things about Twitter, about networking, is that there are lots of people going through similar journeys that we can learn from, that we can talk to, where we can gain insight and support from. And I think we're quite fortunate in this day and age that most good coaches are actually good people, and most of them will respond to messages, to texts, and will help out. And I know pretty much every time I put something out there, I've had loads of people will say, "Oh, I know a guy, I can help with that." And because where football is a people game, in order to be successful at it, you have to be good with people. And so that means that most good coaches have quite a large altruistic side. And so when they see someone in need, they think, "Oh, I can be of use here." And I never see a kind of a transactional exchange. I'm only going to help you if you help me.
Yeah,
It's more that you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and that's how many of the best coaches are. Look, I have a way that I can help you, so I'm going to do it. I'm not keeping score. I expect nothing back, and that we all benefit from that, because I also think that most of us believe in a shared sense of success. So you'll see a lot of coaches do this, and I think it was Rob Porter yesterday put it on Twitter. He loves seeing his Twitter friends do well, and I think we all feel like that. Yeah. So when you see a coach get a great job, someone that you followed for a while, someone that you've interacted with, see like Jack Brazil going to PSV Eindhoven, that's incredible. That's brilliant. I think most of us in the community are so happy for. We're almost as happy for him as he is for himself. At seeing that, because that's brilliant, and we want to achieve that kind of thing. We want to see people achieve that kind of thing, and of course, I'm sure we're all jealous. But I'd love that kind of position.
But it shows it's possible. It shows that it's possible for anyone. If it's possible for Jack, it's possible for me. It's possible for you.
But we don't hate him for it, do we? We're not going, "Oh, bloody hell, what's he got there?" We think, "Oh, brilliant, well done, mate. That is excellent. So happy for you." And this is such a very, very supportive community. The coaches on predominantly Twitter, because I think LinkedIn is a bit, people aren't necessarily real on there. I think they're very, very professional. They're in work mode. It's all handshakes. "Hi, how are you?" Whereas on Twitter, I think you get more, it can be a bit more cynical, but also at the same time, that's because people are being more real. And the coaching community on Twitter is very, very supportive, very, very open. And then you've got people like yourself. So on your own personal account, you've got about 7,000 followers. You share lots of great analysis stuff. Then you've got Coaches Plan with almost 32,000. And you're putting this stuff out there for the benefit of other people. And it is remarkable. Hopefully, it benefits them. They look at your sessions and, "I'm going to do that." And then it works with their kids or their adult players and they love it. Or it might even inspire them to share what they've got. And I love it when I put stuff out there. And it's great when someone sends me a message and says, "I like this, I'm using it." It's better when someone sends me a message and says, "I like this and I'm adapting it." Because now I learn, think, "Oh, so you would change it like that? That's actually really good. I'm going to use that." And so we all learn from each other's experiences. We all build each other up. And the communities that I've worked in that I think I've struggled the most are where you don't have that fraternity within coaches. In St. Louis, it was every man for himself. No one wanted to share. No one wanted to collaborate. No one wanted to meet with the enemy and discuss how we're going to do things. And I missed that. I missed being able to talk to my opposition coach and say, "What are you working on? How do you think the game's going to go? and then afterwards going, yeah, that player that you had, they caused us some problems. We had to do this. Yeah, we like that, and we like what you did. And I think that routine you did was really good, and it challenged us. That because there's a lot of egos in football, right? And I think if you're winning trophies, plastic trophies, with the grassroots kids, like my big plastic trophy here,
Yeah,
right?
it's nice.
It's very shiny too, but you're in it for the wrong reasons. It's a people game, and the fact that you wanted to come on here and do this and share your experience, it's going to help others. So I don't think, from talking to you for an hour, that you would begrudge anyone. If someone came out to Lithuania and then went on further than you, I think you would be very, very happy for them, because it is about that.
Yeah,
we want to see the success in others, don't we?
Yeah, do you know, I honestly find that seeing other people's success is like a drive for me. And like, there can be a massive bitterness towards people being successful. Like if there's somebody you've worked with and they go on to coach in a division higher, like I can understand people feeling like a bit bitter and stuff, but you know, let it drive you. Like if you've worked with somebody and they've gone to a higher level, the one thing it tells me is that it's possible for you then to get to that level. You know, use it as a drive, use it as a bit of fuel, put it in the back pocket and say, look, he's got here, that I'm going to follow him. I'm going to go one level higher. And look, it's good. It's good, like you say. There's a lot on the Twitter side is that people are happy for each other and supportive, and I think that's good because it's then very easy to turn that into motivation and fuel. Look, you'll get the one or two people who are bitter and who have bad opinions. So you get that in all walks of life. But in particular, the Twitter community in terms of coaches is phenomenal. And we go back to Jack. I spoke to Jack a few months back. He actually shared his game model with me. And I've spoke to him a few times. And when I seen that he'd obviously gone to PSV, you know, I couldn't have been happier for the lad. He tried to get me a gig out in Norway when I first started looking a year back. Nothing came of it, but you know, he took time to respond to my messages and say, you know, there's potentially this, there's potentially that. He sent me an advertisement for a job in the Cayman Islands, I think it was, you know, out of his own time. So look, I'm more than happy for the lad, and it's the same for everyone else. You know, if people can get to this level, it's proof in the pudding that, you know, you can get to that level as well.
Well, that's just, it's testament to his character. He's sharing stuff with you, trying to help you out. He was one of several that helped me out during lockdown when kept doing the Zoom meetings, and it just got boring after a while. Same people, same kids. You run out of things to go over, and so we put on some guests, and he was one of them. Jack Brazil, he came on. You think when you got kids, you know, you're going to talk to an academy coach in Norway. The thing is in Norway at the time. They were intrigued. And then another one was for mate Chris Hames, who I live with in Mexico, and then also Johnny out in Prague. He came on, and the kids didn't shut up about it. They thought it was so cool, and because I don't know how much they learned, but they were inspired. At the very least, they were inspired because even. I think we got out of lockdown only a few weeks after that, and they were still talking and asking a few things about some of the things that these coaches have been very, very generous to share with us. And see, you would think, well, they're my kids, they're my players. They shouldn't be learning from other coaches. They shouldn't be idolizing their experiences. No, they absolutely should be, and we should be drawing upon each other for those resources. If I've got the means to show my players something better, I should absolutely do it. We shouldn't hold back.
I completely agree. Yeah, I agree.
So we've just about hit the hour mark. Let me wrap up with one final question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's talk about the future and your ambition. So you're going through the B license at the moment.
Yeah.
Anything else on the horizon in that regard?
I'm doing a degree with Open University in sports fitness and coaching. The reason I'm doing the degree is, look, I want to learn, but also I know that to get a visa in some countries, you have to have a degree. I think it's like that in some Asian countries. So the idea was do a degree while I'm still only young, And then if in 2-3 years' time an opportunity pops up in Asia where I need a degree, you know, there's going to be no hurdles in the way. So I'm trying to set myself up as best possible.
That is a big one, and it will open up a lot of doors in terms of visa requirements. And just simply by getting a bachelor's degree, you then tick one of the biggest boxes for a lot of countries. And talking to some guys in China just recently, it seems like all sorts of immigration problems going on in China because they've closed down to foreigners for quite a while. It's very, very hard to get in. When it does open up, they're anticipating that to get your standard coaching job out in China is going to require a B license and a bachelor's degree. So always have a lot of respect for people that have been able to go and work abroad, apart from maybe your American camps, where you just need to own a whistle, really, to be able to go on those things. But for coaches that have been able to go abroad without a degree, it is incredible, because for a lot of countries it's a very, very difficult, very, very important requirement. So you mentioned Asia. Are you thinking Asia could be somewhere you go eventually?
No, to be honest, if I'm absolutely honest, it's probably the place I would least like to go. South America is the big one for me. I want to go to South America, Argentina or Brazil. I'd love to go to Argentina or Brazil and work there. If I had to pick anywhere that I would least like to go, it would be Asia. Having said that, if I've got the degree, there can never be a hurdle if an opportunity comes up there. So I'm just kind of preparing myself for all routes and making sure that I've got all corners covered. But yeah, I want to coach on every continent in the world. I want to go to the backs of Ivory Coast and Ghana, and I want to go to Brazil, Argentina. I want to experience loads of different cultures. I honestly think there's not enough years left in my life to go to as many countries and coach in as many countries as what I want to. So
that's my ambition too. The one I'm going to struggle with is how do you coach on Antarctica without going and spending 6 months on a research base and essentially doing futsal in their converted basketball hall. That would be all right, I suppose. It would definitely match. It would justify the criteria. But if you're thinking of South America, I believe there's two main options. One is to become a PE teacher at a British private school, or the other one is to go the Michael Beale route and meet someone interesting on a coaching course and impress them.
There's actually an A license coach at the club here, who's the under-19 head coach, who's Brazilian. We've got 4 Brazilian players here, and the agents of them players actually, when he brought the players here, they arrived at a similar time to me. So the agent took my number and stuff. I obviously told him I was interested in South America in maybe 3-4 years. So it's kind of like I say, go back to networking. If you speak to people, when you network with people, the doors will open easier for you. So I kind of feel now I've got a bit of not a route to Brazil, but I kind of know people who've got experience there and an agent who lives there and pulls players from there. So,
Well, via marriage, I've now got family in Argentina, and I've been trying for about 2 years. This little pandemic thing happened, so it has been put off again and again and again. But you think of all the interesting things you can learn and see from going to a place like that, and particularly if you're able to learn another language along the way. It's another string in the bow. It's another very, very important and impressive point on your CV. And because football's becoming more and more international, it really, really helps to have lots of different languages, or at least know a few good phrases and so on. Like even in our futsal team, we had 6 players at a tournament the other week, and only 2 of them were born here. So that just shows you in a very, very small team, you've still got a lot of different internationals. Of course, they all speak fantastic English, that's not a problem. But as you go through the levels, as you work with different teams, there's always going to be that one kid who's moved over from somewhere. Oh, coach over here, he knows some of that language. So he'll come and help out with your sessions. It helps you so much, and it's one thing I wish I took a lot more seriously in school. To learn
me too. No, me too.
Yeah, well, and so you've mentioned you want to work in the top 5 leagues in Europe.
Yeah.
What kind of role?
Manager. I think the aspiration for me and what I'm working towards is managing the top 5 leagues. I'm assistant manager at the moment at the club here. I don't see myself as an assistant manager long term. I never thought it was something to do. I took the opportunity because I'm working with a coach who's got great experience, and the opportunity was too good to turn down. Look, I love the role here, and I'm learning every day, and there's a lot of learning. I think beyond completing my BNA license and maybe getting 2 or 3 years experience under my belt as assistant manager, from that point it'll be I want to be a manager. But look, I think football's about opportunity as well. If I can say I don't want to be an assistant manager, if in 10 years time Manchester United came and said, do you want to be assistant manager of the club, you'd be crazy to say no. So I think it's about perspective and timings as well. But I think the ambition, if I'm saying about what I want to do, the ambition is to be a manager within the top 5 leagues. I'd like to be by 35. I'd like to be a manager within the English Football League, be that the Championship League 1 or League 2. So
you're thinking a bit of a Julian Nagelsmann, but for an English league.
Yeah.
What is it about being a manager that appeals to you the most?
I'm a people person. I find it easy to build relationships with people. I think that maybe comes from my personality. I think it's a bit old school and something you maybe don't see as much now, but I like the man management side of the game. There's so much on the tactical side and the technical side of the game now, and and the analysis side. But I think I really, really appreciate man managers. A quick story before we finish. When I done my FA level 2, we had to write down who our favourite manager was, like on the sheet at the start, and I put Neil Warnock, and everyone of course laughed at me. People like Jose Mourinho, people like Pep Guardiola. I put Neil Warnock, and people on the course laughed at me, and that's why. And I just love the way he approaches his players. He speaks to you on a level, on a personal level. I've seen a documentary of him, and I've read his book. And he's just a really, really old school man manager, and I like that. I like people who can build cultures, and I think for me, something that's overseen sometimes in football is that you can actually get success from purely building a culture, from getting 20 players, the rest of the staff, the under-19 team, get everybody on the same page, pull everyone in the same direction, create the culture, and you can actually get a lot of success from that. Leicester City, for me, is a fine example. Weren't the best players, but got everybody on the same page, everyone pulling in the same direction. There's a massive thing about how good the owners are at that club, how supportive the owners are. From top to bottom, the club's run correctly, and look how much success they've got over recent years. Look, they've got a fantastic manager in Brendan Rodgers. There's no questions about that, but the culture of the club is massive. And for me as a manager, I think I can be somebody who helps build towards and create a great culture. I think it starts from the manager, from a culture perspective. So, yeah, that's the side of the game I'm massively interested in, like man management and creating personal relationships with players and other stuff.
Well, I did laugh at your Neil Warnock answer, but I did listen to his audiobook. I used to listen to it on the way to work in Mexico, and it's brilliant. One of the best books on management. 100%. So good. So, just in case anyone important and influential is watching this, any clubs that you would say no to?
Liverpool. That's the only club. massive Manchester United fan. No, you
wouldn't say no to City, like the supposing Ronaldo.
No, City. I think City are maybe our 10th or 11th biggest rivals. We've got Liverpool, who are bigger rivals. Stockport County. So yeah, I think no. Honestly, on a serious note, look, if the opportunity ever came to work at Liverpool, you'd be crazy to say no. I think my love for Manchester United, my love for football is so big and strong that my passion for Manchester United always appears and always comes out. So I think it would be difficult to work somewhere where Manchester United are hated so much. I would find it difficult to hide my emotions. I'm massively emotional towards United, so probably the only difficult one would be Liverpool. But outside of that, I'm open to work anyway. If there's anybody watching from Man City.
But hey, if you ever do get the offer from Liverpool, it would be credit to where you've gone and what you've achieved, right? So it'd be a good dilemma to have, wouldn't it? So I could work in Premier League, but it'd be working for Liverpool.
Yeah.
It's definitely worse conundrums to suffer.
I think ultimately I would probably have to put my Manchester United love aside from that. So, yeah.
Well, let's call it a day. You go and enjoy your day of coaching. Best of luck to you out there.
Thank you very much.
We'll keep an eye on what you get up to, and if ever you want to share stuff, let us know. And are you all right if we put your details out there for people to contact you, ask you further questions?
Absolutely no problem at all. I'll send you my details in private, my email, my Twitter page, and stuff like that. And if anybody wants to get in touch about anything football related, non-football related, more than welcome to get in touch with me and have a chat.
Especially there's lonely evenings now you could do with some people to talk to, right?
Yes, I could. Yeah, you're right.
Well, listen, it's been fascinating. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight. Best of luck and wish you all the success. I'm sure we'll talk again at some point in the future.
No problem. It's an absolute pleasure to come on.
Thanks to Macauley for coming on. You can follow Macauley on Twitter at Mackie Coaching and also Coach's Plan. Big shout out to our new partners, Sport Performance Hub and Ahead in Sport. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'll see you soon.